like Bob Dylan. You want to speak on the subject?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, 100%, man. It's a plague on society. We know what a human is, and not to get too deep into anything, but your mind, what we call your mind or your soul, that's what a human is. And the way that we function is by what we feed ourselves, what we feed our mind, what we feed our soul. Well, I'll say what we meditate on, what we feed our soul through our eyes and through our ears. It determines your mood. It determines your mindset. It determines everything about you, because that's what you really are. That's how you change your mood. You can turn on music, listen to something different, it'll have an effect on your mood. You can watch something, it'll have an effect on your train of thought. So when we sit there and look at the cell phone all day and social media, especially the part that the brother commented on about the liberty that people take now to be disrespectful or to do things, they don't have to worry about the consequences now. It's a plague, bro. Yes, sir.
Look, I appreciate your show. Let me say this real quick. So I was having trouble sleeping, and I went and saw my primary doctor. And he said to me, my advice to you is, shut your phone. No, put it down. Shut it off an hour before you go to bed. I think realizing absolutely, he was 100% right. But before I continue to go to Kyle, Kelly's out there doing what Kelly does, and she said to tell everybody hi, and she'll speak when she can. Kyle, what's up?
I just want to say thank you for having this room. I think, Dr. Catherine, if you're at all interested, I provided a lot of information in the back channel. I'll provide some more. What you're talking about is real, and it seems like people are actually becoming or having a sense of agency about it because it's impacting their children's development. Not only education, but social skills. So it is not only changing how children behave and experience the world, but also adults. And what's coming is going to be far greater than what we've observed so far to date. AI. So if you look at Pi, it's a AI model, but it's a conversational based model. I could see people getting addicted to having conversations with an AI model and forgetting to socialize with actual human beings in the future. So this is a very great topic, and I'm all ears, and I'll contribute if possible.
Thank you. Jordan, what's up, brother?
Hey, how are you?
I'm so happy you're here and there's no noise in the background. Mike.
Yeah, tell your physician to look at this new study that examined the impact of putting the phone down a certain amount of time before you sleep. I think it refuted some of the prior understanding of the impact of the blue screen and blah blah blah, or blue light. But I was going to say, with this epidemic that Kyle often talks about of loneliness, I think that social media, when I've lived in remote places of the world, fucking A, to be able to, I didn't have social audio, I had Facebook, but I could connect with people, and that, had I had social audio, I would have used it. If people are working from home, if you live in a city that you weren't raised in, there are millions of people who benefit from, engaging with people because those are some of the options that are available to them. So I don't look at it as such a negative, but I can't speak to the impact it has on the development of young people. So I just think that it's a beautiful blessing in a world where people are working from home. They travel to new cities to work, or they move to new cities to work.
Let me ask you a question, though, because you have to it up.
Yeah.
And this question is to you and everybody in the room, because I also want to say hello to Sean and Transcendent. But let me ask you, should social media companies be held liable for what their users do on their platforms?
No, no more than someone who drives a sports car and they're incentivized to drive faster because it looks cool or something like that. I'm not not talking about from a legal framework, but I'm talking from the perspective of, they put this out there. There's only so much they can do. Now, the algorithms, yeah, I mean, if they're, if they do influence, for example, Instagram likes videos more than still pictures, right? And let's say they don't like, and I think this is the case, they're not going to like a text-based meme perhaps as much as they're going to push something out that's a person standing with a landscape behind them, and often those are going to be the models who are kind of pushing the algorithmic activity to begin with. So it's a feedback loop, and they can't help what our culture is interested in. The problem is that they reinforce it, and that's where I think they would be liable for anything. I don't mean legally; I just mean ethically.
Thank you, Jordan. Let me say hello to Shauna. Shauna, how you doing, Council? Shauna? Okay, she's not there. Transcendent Audio. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Jay?
How you doing?
Not much, man. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Did you need to say something?
I was just curious who you are to change your name because your voice sounds familiar. Oh, Rich, would you stop changing your damn name, bro?
Sorry. No, have you guys seen the whole situation in Canada, their proposed legislation of regulating content creators like podcasters over a certain amount of followers? Or no, they have to earn over $1 million or something. And if they do, they have to register with the Canadian government, and they have to allow for the Canadian government to come in and have full access to all their data and information, including communications between the content creator and the followers. So I mean, imagine how many people are messaging these content creators and saying, "Dude, this is so messed up what the government's doing." Like the whole, the trucker shutdown in Canada. How many of those people the government would have access to in Canada, which is kind of crazy. It's a wild situation up there.
I haven't heard that, but I'm glad you brought that up. Me personally, I think companies should be held liable. I read that, I think it was Facebook. I gotta find the article. They were saying that Facebook, no, it was Instagram, it's the same company. They knew that kids were viewing people being shot and whatnot, even though there's supposed to be parameters to stop them from doing that. And Facebook or Instagram, they didn't care. Also, with social media and social audio, how it's going to impact this upcoming election. What's up, Ken? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, so as you know probably, Jay, there's Section 230, so you're not really going to be able to hold them liable unless there have been some Supreme Court cases, and recently the Supreme Court kind of punted on some of these issues, so I think we're definitely not there. The Canada thing is brand new. I think they first put it into effect, so I don't even know if it will last 2 months because it's fairly draconian. And I'm not going to defend all of this, but I just want to make a point that before we had what we call social media, people have been making these arguments about other forms of entertainment. They did it about, violent video games. They did it about certain things in movies that kids emulate. And there's no question kids emulate things in movies, okay? But, this is where it is. But no one's actually even been able to show, scientifically, a link between, the video games, the first shooter games, and even the school violence. We know there's more school violence, but it hasn't even been linked to that. And so, every generation, you're going to go through this. It's just something everyone needs to adjust to it. I don't think in a free society, you could be banning certain things. And just the nature, by the way, of how social media works versus traditional media. There was a thing in Australia. I'm trying to make sure that I'm recalling this correctly. But the Australian government that does some really strange things sometimes. They wanted to hold like Facebook responsible for comments. Like like let's say it was like a CNN feed or something into Facebook, and then somebody made some sort of comments about it, and those comments were defamatory. They wanted to hold like Facebook, accountable. So Facebook then cut off CNN. Okay, there are consequences to all these things. The problem is when people come up with these laws and they come up with all these rules, they never play out the whole chessboard. It's really complicated, you know. So I mean, you could do it. I mean, does China not do it? Absolutely. Even India does it. Okay. The question is, do you want the United States to be, more totalitarian? And then you can do it.
Okay, and let me jump in here.
Just quick.
I got you, Kyle. Kyle, give me a sec. Whether people want to hear this or not, maybe it's just my crazy beliefs. We had the Patriot Act. America spies on us anyway. So I want. Abby, you want to say something?
Yeah, that sunsetted. It morphed into a different law, but the Patriot Act is not law anymore. It morphed into the New Freedom Act, I think it was called. But then that kind of also sunsetted right around COVID. I don't know what ever got reenacted as law, but Patriot Act's definitely sunsetted.
All right, so let me ask you this, Abby. And I'm asking respectfully. You don't think the government is listening in on most of us?
I think my phone listens in. Like I mention something, then all of a sudden I get 15 ads, from the store or the product I mentioned. I do want to tell you something though. This is not great comfort, but it's some comfort. There is some self-policing going on. I mean, some of these companies have compliance committees, and they're trying to self-police. There's also pressure on these companies from the advertisers. So to some extent, if you have enough advertisers that are insisting that there's compliance and there's not bullying, or also with respect to like hate speech that shows up in this stuff, you have advertisers that really don't want, Firestone tires next to, people posting swastikas and stuff. And so there has been, sort of a compliance committee set up through the pressure from some of the bigger advertisers as well. I mean, that doesn't solve the problem, but there is some movement to try to regulate it that way.
But what about when the Biden administration, and I believe Trump's campaign also did it, pressured Facebook to take things down that related to COVID. Our government's all over the place. They have their fingers in every pot. But let me just get back to this real quick. Social audio, right? This is social audio. I've been on this app 4 years. I know most of you people. And the things I've seen and heard and experienced on this app is, before I came on this app, I couldn't even imagine it actually happening. People get murdered off this app. Still to this day. Just a couple of weeks ago, somebody got murdered off this app while the room was being live streamed. The person that ran that room, they took the house away, but they let the person stay on. How does that make sense? Kyle, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly that it takes a while to actually come up with empirical evidence for this. A behavior of violence in school is just one particular behavior. Before finding any cause for that, we would have to look at behavior to begin with, and screen time. Since TVs have come out, it's been a long time ago, but there needed to be ample amount of time to actually figure out how this is impacting the development, the psychological development, the emotional development, and the brain development. This is just in response to what Ken provided. I do know that back in the day, there were a lot of, let's just say, like, stories that weren't true, and we didn't really have any evidence for. But if you look in the back channel now, today, we've got ample amount of evidence to show that screen time is impacting the behavioral development of people.
Of course it is. Listen, my first social. Hold on, Ken. I'm gonna get you in a second, Ken. I promise. My first social experience that I got addicted to. Some of you may not be old enough to remember this, but I got addicted to AOL chat rooms. Anybody remember those AOL chat rooms where you had?
Yep, I remember them.
Yep, I got addicted to those things. And it's not that I don't have friends in real life, but it was an escape from life. And now, I think social audio is the same thing. Listen, we have people on this app, on other apps. I'm not going to mention names of other apps, but who really believe the hype of who they portray themselves to be on these apps, right? And it can get really, really great, really, really shady real fast. But Ken, you want to say something? I want to welcome Brent to the stage.
Well, now I gotta remember what I wanted to say. Now I just forgot what I wanted to say, so it doesn't matter.
If it matters, I'm with you about freedom.
Oh yeah, that's what it was, Kyle. Yeah. It was like the Chinese made the decision, Chinese government, that this is bad for young children, for young kids. That's why, their version of TikTok, because they have TikTok's effectively owned by China, but I mean they have their own version. So they're not TikTok over there, and they have all sorts of rules that they're able to implement because they're an authoritarian country about the number of hours that people of a certain age can even, be on these apps. And you just need to make a decision. It's like a lot of things, by the way, in the world, okay, where you could look at foreign countries and say they're better than we are at certain things. That's because they restrict freedoms. Because there's a cost. Right on the Korean War Memorial, there's a saying that freedom is not free. And people always forget that, okay? Freedom means that people get the right to burn the American flag. The Nazis get to march in Skokie. There's a lot of things that, people don't like that, if you want to have freedom and civil liberties, you got to put up with. Otherwise, you could be China or Saudi Arabia.
Hey, Ken. Hey, Ken. How about the title to the room is a plague on society, not just America. Because there's a world outside this country.
Well, I made that point. I'm saying other countries
Okay.
handled it differently. Okay? But you're not going to get a global response. It's going to be country by country. And that's what you've seen already. You're going to get a country by country response. Okay? So, there's negatives for everything. And I'm not arguing that it's not a plague. I think the Kardashians are a plague. And God knows if I was in Congress and there was a constitutional amendment to ban them off the E-network, I'd probably vote for it. Okay? But that's not the world we live in.
Thank you, Ken. Brent, how you doing tonight, Brent?
Hey, how are you? I mean, interesting conversation. I think this is a conversation in which there may be, or at least there seemed to be, some bipartisan agreement on a way to fix it. And I think the way to fix, at least the severity of the plague is right in front of you. Is you need to reform Section 230. Complete freedom from liability over anything on your platform does not work because it doesn't matter what sort of misinformation. So providing the ability of individuals to sue when there's blatant falsehoods that are widespread to the level in which a company should know, just like, you could sue Fox News over at Dominion, is one way in which the regulatory structure needs to change and could mitigate some of the plague that social media is, and it's well within, our system of jurisprudence to do that.
Brent, let me ask you a question real quick. You don't have to read up. We're having a conversation, not an argument. But the question to you is, you put your phone, can you stay on social media for 7 days, for a week?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
Right, the thing that you're talking about, I'm not saying good or bad, but you would destroy the companies that you would deem as social media now if you held them to the same standard as the New York Times, and I'll tell you why. Because when you send a letter to the editor, to the New York Times, they don't have to publish it. They publish very few opinions. Okay, they also basically restrict their comments. The very nature of the way that people engage with a Facebook or a TikTok or Instagram or Threads or any of these things. Okay, you're talking about a wholesale change in the business model, so you're basically going to put them out of business.
So I would concur that if you applied kind of individual liability or liability standards for the New York Times, it would put them out of business. That's not the liability standards I think you should apply. Like you're going to have to kind of think about what sort of degree of going viral would a company know. Would a company know that this falsehood is spreading? Like you're going to have certain measurements where the company clearly knows at a corporate level or should know at a corporate level that this tweet or this statement has gone viral on their on their site, and then you can kind of start to apply liability, like it's clearly false, it's notably false, and they should know it, and that's kind of how I think you do it. And are social media companies going to fight tooth and nail over that sort of change? Yeah, they're going to fight tooth and nail over that sort of change. But I think you can also do it in a way that won't send Facebook, Twitter, or any of these companies.
When you actually implement this stuff,
Hold on a second.
That's
Kenny,
amazing.
Kenny, hold on a second. Well, this is my thought, right? When I opened this room. When I was growing up, if I got out of line, my grandmother took a big wooden spoon to my ass. You want to punish your kids now? Just take away their phones. And see how they drag ass? I did it with my former stepson. Took away his phone for 2 days. This boy was dragging ass all over it because and I got him a flip phone. I said, "Hey, you need it's an emergency. There's a flip phone." And it was like somebody punched his puppy. It's bizarre to me. As a parent, it concerns me. But let me say a little Mike real quick. Mike, how you doing?
Good. You want me to go?
Yeah, Mike is yours.
Yeah, what Brent is doing right now to me is just a total bait and switch. Talking about the newspapers and traditional media and comparing it to this, and then making allusions to libel and slander laws, and then the palming of the card is swapping out libel and slander and introducing misinformation, malinformation, etc. Okay, so if you kept the analogy in newspapers, what he's talking about is banning the National Enquirer, right? There is you, me, anybody else, but we'll keep it with newspapers. They have the right to run a story that says a bat boy was found in a cave, knowing that it is a lie. The government has no control over that. That doesn't violate libel. It doesn't violate slander. Okay? So if you want to make the case that they need to start saying, hey, listen, we need to start cracking down on libel and slander on internet platforms, that is a totally different conversation, right? And so if someone says something that is provably not true, and you can prove has sue them, you can do that, all right? And that is not what Brent is talking about doing. Brent is talking about making it illegal to say things that Brent thinks are harmful to society.
Can I respond to that briefly? So that's actually not what I'm talking about. I am talking about a system in which you could sue the individual, or you could sue. The only difference I'd make it is I would take away the kind of protection standards under 230, or at least shape them back greatly. So if you're, let's go, I forgot his name, but the DNC staffer who was murdered in the streets of DC, if you're his family, and conspiracy theories are knowingly being spread, that family would be able to sue Fox News, which, it did sue Fox News and it got a settlement, but it would also at a certain point be able to sue Facebook or wherever that falsehood had spread. Let me finish, Mike. I was quiet when you were talking.
I just was preparing.
Okay. Okay. So I am not saying the government should control it. I am saying that individuals that have been wronged and had falsehoods spread about them, or corporations that have falsehoods spread about them, like Dominion, should be able to go to court.
Brent, I'm gonna let you finish. You're not giving me up. If that's the case, I'd be a billionaire from everything that's said about me on a daily basis. Okay.
So, I mean, as I said, I think you'd have to have some sort of different standards in an individual or newspaper, some sort of level of viral content where Facebook at the corporate level. So you'd have to craft the change to Section 230 in a way that works, but I think it's doable, and I think it would be massively effective in a much better internet culture.
I think this is obvious to anyone who has two brain cells to rub together, that this type of thought is what's been pervasive in America since, I don't know, the 1950s, where we have this overly litigious society. So, if someone jumps you in a public park, right, you should be able to take legal action against them. You should not be able to take legal action against a public park for platforming your jumping. All right. If we live in that society, we now live in a society where no one can have a public park. And this is obvious to anyone who has an IQ above room temperature. Okay. So the same thing goes with people saying that we should be able to sue gun manufacturers or bullet manufacturers if your kid or whoever gets murdered. These are insane tyrants, or they're stupid. It's stupid or liar. It's really that simple.
Well, Mike,
Are there police in
hold
the
on,
park?
Kyle, hold on a second. We're getting off point here, but Mike, check this out. How about parents, all of us, myself included, take accountability for what their kids are doing on these social media platforms? How about we take accountability for each other, and when we hear these derogatory, nasty, vile, venomous statements made about, I'm just going to say, Ellie or Jordan or somebody, we stand together and say, hey, we're not doing that anymore. Where's the accountability for us on the individual? Listen, Mike, I agree with you about 230, Section 230. But this, I think, comes down to us, just my opinion. Yeah, Kyle.
I was just quickly asking because I do like this analogy, but I thought about what about police? Do police ever go police the park?
For crimes.
Right, exactly. So what about the platforms? There doesn't seem to be as much of a police force on these platforms, right? And so that's the difference between the park and the platform. Although I did greatly enjoy your analogy.
But also that speaking is a constitutionally protected right, and jumping people isn't.
So, absolutely speaking is, I would point out that you can sue people if you're in a club or restaurant and they have an unsafe environment. That owner is open to being sued.
This is why we're all drinking room temperature coffee from fucking McDonald's.
Speech is absolutely a protected right, but certain speech isn't. Like, you can't scream fire in a movie theater. You can't knowingly tell falsehoods about a person.
Yes, you can.
Those sort of things. No, you can't.
It happens every day.
Yeah, it happens every day, and if that person can show that you have an actual financial or some sort of harm, that person can sue you.
Yes,
let me
that's
jump in
a
here,
new one.
Mike, let me jump in for 2 seconds. So here's a little nugget something you may not know. The reason we have this version of Clubhouse is because all the toxicity, all the threats, all the shit that was being taken off this app, people's families were getting doxxed. Clubhouse was they were going to get sued by a lot of people because they weren't policing their own app. I'm not saying anything derogatory. I'm saying the truth. So before I go to any new speakers, Dr. Jordan's been trying to jump in. Jordan?
People also have been killed, dude.
I know, but we're going to talk about that.
Sorry. No, I missed part of the conversation, but what I would offer is that we don't have exactly great role models, regardless of what technology offers us. I mean, we've got Donald Trump, who will say anything in a tweet. We've got RFK, who will boast about dropping off a dead bear carcass in Central Park as the environmentalist that he is, and all these other crazy nut job things. An environmental organization is suing him for how he handled a whale carcass. I mean, it's like we don't exactly have good role models for kids. So what does it really matter? I mean, I know that, you know, there's plenty of empirical data to suggest that these platforms on their own create problems, but I mean, just at a higher elevation, we don't have good role models. So, you know, adults, if they use these platforms more responsibly, maybe kids would use them more responsibly.
Well, Jordan, what about parents? What about teachers? What about police officers? Aren't those role models?
Well, I don't know how a kid who sees something that an adult who is not a familial relative or a family friend, how you can't hide what other people are doing, so they get exposure to that. And I mean, you know, I wouldn't blame them for posting something asinine. And I don't mean to just pick on Republicans, Democrats too. You know, just I don't think children have great role models. And if they had better role models, some of this stuff would take care of itself.
Well, let me say it starts at home. There are a lot of parents that, sorry,
You know how I run my rooms, bro. I like to get everybody involved, and then you can talk all you want. But let me go to Claude real quick. Claude, how you doing tonight? Claude, are you there?
Yeah, what's up?
Did you want to chime in on the conversation?
I'm just kind of feeling it out and kind of seeing where it's going.
But then let me ask you this: has social media, social audio become a plague on society?
I think we obviously live in different times. Before you'd actually have to go see someone in real life, I think that it shows people the real you, as how asinine people can be on social media. I think it's disconnecting a lot of us. Even if you take social media out of it, the fact that everybody has a smartphone in their pocket is disconnecting the facial, like face-to-face communication, making it worse, really. You know, even a phone call, you can tell if somebody's mad, upset, angry, sad with the tone of voice. With text messages, like, that's not always the best in certain situations, but I do think there is definitely an effect that's happened. Now, how do we go about, you know, getting kids back outside, like playing in the mud again, like not just glued to something? And I think parents need to take a little bit more responsibility on what their kids consume, because the internet's not a safe space. And if you don't like somebody or someone or some group, they have the right to say what they want to say, but action is where they could get in trouble. So if you don't like hearing what somebody has to say, my favorite is when people get so upset with a group, person, whatever it may be, but yet they sit there and advertise for that group. Oh, these people suck. I hate Eskimos. Why do they have all the... It's like, okay, well, walk away. Go somewhere else. Obviously, you don't want to be around that. I mean, people are allowed to say stupid shit, but it doesn't come with an insurance policy. Thank you so much. My name is Tyler Nim.
Thank you, Claude. Listen, like I said, I'm happy my kids are grown. I don't have to worry about them anymore. But if I had kids of a certain age, I guess between 10 and 18, why 10-year-olds have iPhones is beyond me. But I'm going through those phones. I want to see who they're talking to, where they're going. It's just, I don't know, where's the parental? Where's the parental responsibility in this world? Well, let me say hello to El Normo, and then we're going to go to Wallace and Angel. El Normo. Norman,
What's happening, man?
how you doing? You still on vacation?
No, I'm just recovering from my vacation. I need a vacation to recover from my vacation.
It's pouring here in Brooklyn. So what do you think? Do you think it's has social media and social audio become a plague on society?
Yeah, it's a destructive addiction. It's a problem. It's a real problem.
How do we fix it?
I feel by taking social media vacations. You know, put the thing down. Try doing it for 24 hours. My kid said to me that when he runs out of battery, he's happy because he feels relieved. Yeah, they've over indexed on dopamine and positive reinforcement. It's like a slot machine. You just keep checking to see if you got a like. You know, who's blocked me, who's followed me. Yeah, it's a big problem.
Well, no. Do you have a social audio, social media addiction by any chance?
I think I do, yeah. I think it's pretty obvious. It's not a substitute for real life. Huh?
I said thank you for your honest answer.
You're welcome. Try to be honest.
You're always honest with me, even though I think you're still a Republican. But
I can't be a Republican. It's not kosher.
You calling him out on it too.
he knows what I'm talking about.
I
I love Norman. He could do no wrong in my eye.
Thank you for that. Look, I've been a registered Democrat longer than a lot of people have been alive or voting.
So, wait. So is Trump. What's your...
I don't think Trump. Look at all the Democrats following Trump, for God's sake. Tulsi Gabbard endorsed him today. Robert Kennedy Jr. is on his team. What you're calling Republican is what Democrats were 20 years ago. So why is it our fault that the Democratic Party has become unrecognizable?
And over 200 staffers from George Bush Jr. and Donald Trump's former administration, over 200 staffers have endorsed Kamala.
That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly my point. It's not what's liberal about what Kamala's trying to do. How is she trying to solve our problems? How is she trying to solve the economy, the border, and foreign wars?
We're going to find out before the election. She's doing an interview tomorrow night with Tim Walz on CNN, and we're going to be live streaming in this room.
Well, I saw that that's coming, and I already saw criticisms that, number one, it's going to be pre-recorded, pre-taped. And number two, she's doing it with her babysitter, Tim Walz. Why? Because she can't hold the room for enough time. He's going to fill in the awkward silences or something. But okay, fine.
Well,
the beginning.
Well, let's get back to the topic, because I read today that the Biden administration pressured Facebook to take down nasty posts about COVID and the Biden administration.
I saw that.
So, but
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, he came out and said he called him out, but he also, I believe he said Trump did it as well, but not as hardcore as Joe Biden's administration. So
Yeah, that's anti-democratic.
For God's sake.
Well, let me go to Wallace, because Wallace never comes to stage. What's up, Wallace?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'll answer the question first, or the topic to the room. I want to say yes, but I say no only because I see it as more good than bad. And it ultimately comes down to personal responsibility and teaching that on your kids so that they use it properly and don't get all sucked in to the badness of it. But I find great use in it. So, yeah, I just also came up to say all the descriptions I think Brent gave about restricting speech, those were all like
We finally got tired, so sick of the conversation. It looks to the audience to see who else there is, and then boom. About 44 minutes before you start looking around. There we go.